Never dwell on nostalgia. What is nostalgia? Nostalgia is the feeling, or let's say the emotion, of longing back to some good time that happened in the past. Let's say you're in your 40s now and you remember some friends from college or people you grew up with in your teenage years. And you remember all the fun times you had with them and you really want to relive those old times again. That's nostalgia. And there's nothing wrong with nostalgia in itself. It's a human emotion, it's natural. However, too often people dwell on nostalgia and that becomes a trap. Let me explain. First of all, you're not that age anymore. You're not in your teens or in your early 20s, you're in your 40s now. Secondly, those people also change over time. Some have families, some have the career, some pass away. I hope not, because I want everyone to live as long as possible in their first bodies. But sometimes it happens. Some became worse, others became better. So the context is not the same. If you have nostalgia for the good times you had at high school, then remember that was a context that you were in. That context is not there anymore. So the reason you had those relationships was because of that context, and the context was you had to get your high school diploma to go to college. That was the context, and in that context, you had people around you with the same purpose, and because of that, you bonded together. Once the purpose was over, many of those bonds faded away. Not because you turned on each other, not because you were bad people, but because the bond was based on a context, and the context is gone. You can reflect back on the context and feel good about it, about the good times. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't dwell on nostalgia. And dwelling on nostalgia has the following effect, and it's this effect that I want you to be free from. When you dwell on nostalgia, you become blurred in your perception. Why? Because it is a human tendency to forget all the bad and hold on to the good. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you keep remembering the bad, it will affect you emotionally in the present in a bad way. And that's counterproductive. So of course you don't want to hold on to the bad emotions that you felt in the past. That's obvious. Nobody tells you to do that. But look at this. When you dwell on nostalgia, you tend to forget the bad things that happened at the same time. And the bad things that happened also shaped you, also had an effect on you. And the bad that happened also caused trauma or emotional injury. And those traumas or emotional injuries also cause you to fall into patterns and cycles. Those patterns and cycles that you needed to be delivered from. So now that you're walking by faith and you are delivered from what happens to you. But if you only remember the good stuff and not the bad, then you may forget why you were delivered to begin with. You get what I'm saying here? Okay, let's say that you had a very rough time because one of your parents passed away at a young age. I hope that this didn't happen to you, but let's say it happened. And let's say you had some people you met, you went to the bar with them, you drank some heavy spirits, you had a great time. But after a while, you stopped hanging out with them. You graduated college, you began your full-time job, you married, then you bought your own house with you and your spouse. What's going on? You were going through a bad time, and those people were there, and they meant well. They didn't harm you, but those people were stuck. And because they were stuck, they trapped you into this pattern of heavy drinking. And this pattern of heavy drinking caused marital problems later on. So now that you're delivered from those marital problems that were caused by heavy drinking, now you also remember why you had to leave those people behind. If you dwell on nostalgia, you may think, you know what, let me reconnect with those people. And those people, likely, they're worse off now than you because they don't serve Christ. So what happens then is that you long for something that's not going to be good for you. And when you long for something that's not going to be good for you, you will miss out on the good that's going on for you in the present. So it will hinder you from benefiting and walking in the goods today. And when you can't walk nor benefit from the good today, you will crash into the future. So it's a recipe for disaster. And that is something Satan often does. Satan will trigger you into nostalgia, and once you dwell on the nostalgia, automatically your perception is blurred, you can't see things clearly in the present, and you'll crash. This often happens. Now, let me give another reason why dwelling on nostalgia is not a good idea. Think about it this way. Let's say that you are going through, let me say, a financial difficulty, you almost got homeless. And you have those people that are around you. They cheer you, they want you to feel good, but they can't really help you any further. And you appreciate what they can do for you. But now that you're with those people, you realize, hold on a minute, but these folks that are around me, they never look for solutions. They never see things coming. And now you reflect back on the last 2 years and you realize, when I was at work and a co-worker told me, you know what, Jeffrey, let's say your name is Jeffrey. Jeffrey, it's better for you to look for another job because the people here, they're kind of annoyed at you. A co-worker told you that. At the time, you thought the co-worker was overreacting, but now you realize that the co-worker was telling the truth. The co-worker was warning you that there was contention against you at the workplace. And the contention drained you because you were under psychic violence and eventually you lost your job due to a burnout. So now you realize, this co-worker noticed something, but then you think about yourself thinking, why didn't I notice anything? Then you realize that you are not that alert. You realize that your mind is not set on the right priorities. So now you realize, okay, there are things that need to change with me for me to be better. And then you look at the people around you and you notice that they are in a cycle. They go through similar things over and over again and they never move forward. Of course, you had good times with them because they were there for you when you almost got homeless. One of them even lent you money to pay the bill so you wouldn't be kicked out of your apartment. So they really helped you. So they're not bad people. But it doesn't mean that they're not stuck. You don't have to be bad to be stuck. And when people are stuck, they themselves don't see it. And when they are stuck and you remain around them, you'll be stuck also because it will have an effect on you. And if they remain stuck for way too long, they may turn out into bad people. But even if that does not happen, it's not healthy for you to remain with them. Now to realize that you need to improve, you need to change for the better. So you reflect on the past, that's natural, but you don't dwell on it. So as I mentioned before in a video I made about a year ago, you reflect back, you don't look back. When you look back, you are dwelling on. When you reflect back, you're examining. So when you reflect on the past, you'll notice things, you'll notice patterns, you'll notice things you've been delivered from. When you have nostalgia, you don't notice patterns. And when you have nostalgia, you tend to hold on to a version of the past that never happened, because the version of the past you're holding on to is a fiction in which everything went well. And nothing good comes from holding on to a past that never happened. Too many people do that. Look, for 2020 and the decades to come, I want you to reflect back and laugh and be happy about all the good times you went through. And I also want you to process all the bad stuff that happened so that you can move forward in the here and now. That's what I want for you. So have nostalgia, but don't dwell on it. I'm saying, dwelling on nostalgia won't do you any good. It will only cause you to crash in the present. So you can see people once in a while that you haven't seen for years or for a long period of time. And you can bring back memories and laugh. But while you do this, make sure you're all reflecting on how to move forward in the here and now. If you keep hanging around people who only talk about the good old times, move away from such people. Not because you have something against them, not because you look down on them, but because they're not good to be around. I'm not saying they're not good people. I'm not saying they're bad people, but they're not good to be around. They will hinder you in the end now. They will cause you to crash. I mean it. So, always reflect back, but never look back. You've nothing to look back to, because you're in the here and now. Me, there are people I had to move away from. Not because they were bad towards me, but because their presence was not in harmony with God's will for me. Think about it. If you have people, they're not bad people, but they're not looking at the bigger picture either. They're not people that have any interest in looking beyond. And now they are with me while I'm making videos about looking beyond. How's that going to work out? They're going to be a hinder on me making videos. So this YouTube ministry that later developed over the years could only develop because certain people were removed. Sometimes for your own well-being and your own long-term good, or better, your own long-term benefit, some people need to be removed from you. And it's not always the bad people need to be removed. Sometimes even good people need to be removed. If you were born again and you had this pastor at this local church that taught you well, that's good, but it's time for you now to walk in faith yourself. If you keep hanging around that pastor, you'll never walk by faith yourself. So when violence comes against you, you don't have knowledge to overcome. Why? Because you're so reliant on that pastor. Or let's say that you have maybe not friends, or maybe parents, or you have relatives. You have relatives that pick you up. You don't have to pay rent. You can live there for free. They don't bother with it. Okay, that happens. What if one day that relative loses a job? Or what if that relative passes away one day? What are you going to do then? You spent years laying on the couch. You haven't been productive. And now it's going to backfire on you. So it is much better for you if that relative kicks you out with a good intention for you to become autonomous. Why? Because that relative knows if he keeps being that generous to you, you will not develop and you'll turn out worse. You'll become codependent. Now, some people don't mind you becoming codependent on them. That's because they're narcissistic. They only think about their own relief. But someone that truly cares about you will kick you out or push you into your development. And that is what the Holy Spirit is doing. The Holy Spirit will remove people from you that will hinder your development. Not because you were doing anything wrong, but because it was time for you to move forward. And some people will not allow you to move forward, not because they will sabotage you on purpose. Well, some will, but those are bad people. Some people will sabotage you by the mere fact that they are not moving forward and that they have no interest in growing. If they have no interest in growing, nor in advancing, nor in looking forward, you just will be stuck in this daily pattern, this daily relief. Then what do they have to offer you? How will they affect you? How will they impact you? You can't be yoked with such people. That would be an unequal yoke. That will drain you and burden you. Some people are good as memories of the past. They are no good for you to interact with today. They are not. So always move forward. Agree with Christ.